My beloved child, something in the unseen realm has already been set into motion for you, and tonight, Archangel Michael stands closer than he has in months, carrying a message that shakes the atmosphere around your life. When he speaks, chains tremble. When he appears, cycles break. And right now, he is sounding a warning, not of fear, but of divine urgency. The blessing that will break every chain in your life is moving toward you, but time is running out to align with it. Listen carefully, because this is not a message for everyone. This is for the one whose spirit has been feeling a strange pull, the one who has been sensing that something is shifting in the background, even if the physical world still looks heavy, blocked, or silent. If your heart has been stirring, if your nights have been restless, if you've been feeling watched over in the invisible, then yes, this message is for you. Archangel Michael says there is a blessing traveling toward your life like a beam of heavenly fire. It has been released from the throne room, carrying the power to break chains you've been trapped in for years. Chains of delay, chains of emotional heaviness, chains of injustice, chains connected to people who drained you, betrayed you, or made you feel spiritually paralyzed. But here is the stunning revelation. This blessing does not move randomly. It aligns itself only with those who are spiritually awake enough to receive it. That is why Archangel Michael is stepping forward with urgency. He says your window, the window where your spirit lines up perfectly with heaven's movement, is narrowing. And yet you are closer than you think. He wants you to know that the battle around your life has not been because you are cursed. It has been because you are chosen. Every delay was an attempt to distract you away from this moment of alignment. Every painful season was meant to make you doubt your own anointing. But Michael says heaven did not forget what was written about you. The promise didn't die. The prophecy didn't fall. The blessing didn't disappear. It has simply been waiting for you to rise back into the frequency of your divine assignment. Right now, I need you to pay attention to your inner atmosphere. Something has been shifting. Something has been clearing. And something has been calling you back into your own spiritual authority. That's because your breakthrough is not coming. It is already in motion. Michael shows an image, a golden chain snapping in the spirit realm. He says the moment that chain breaks, you will feel the shift in your emotions, your clarity, your energy, and even your relationships. People who were blocking your path will begin fading out by divine orchestration. Doors that remained shut for years will begin to unlock themselves. And opportunities that once slipped through your hands will return with new strength, carrying divine favor. But he is also warning you, distractions are rising, at the same time your blessing is moving. Old habits trying to resurface. Old fears trying to whisper. Old connections trying to pull you back into the version of yourself you've already outgrown. And that is why he is telling you time is running out to align with what heaven is releasing. This blessing is not small. It is not temporary. It is not just financial or emotional. It is a chain-breaking, destiny-redirecting, foundation-shaking blessing. One that changes the entire direction of your life. One that resets everything that felt broken in your spirit. One that causes you to look back months from now and say, that was the moment everything shifted. But for you to fully receive it, there is one requirement. You cannot return to the version of yourself that God has already delivered you from. Your spirit is being prepared for elevation, but your habits must follow. Your mind is being aligned with purpose, but your decisions must echo that purpose. Archangel Michael says, what is coming requires the strongest version of you, the version heaven hath been developing. And he is commanding every force that hath been fighting your destiny to fall away, permanently, without returning. This next line is important. Your blessing is in motion. but it will meet you at the level of your spiritual posture, not your fears, not your doubts, not your past, only your alignment. So if you've been feeling the urge to pray more, don't ignore it. If you've been sensing the need to detach from certain people, trust it. If you've been pulled toward silence, reflection, and spiritual cleansing, honor it. These are signs that heaven is synchronizing your life with the incoming breakthrough. And child, trust this. The chains around you are not stronger than the blessing coming for you. They may feel heavy, but they are temporary. They may feel tight, but they are fragile. Heaven has already signed the release. Michael has already drawn his sword, and the blessing with your name on it is almost upon you. Hold steady now. You're closer to freedom than you've ever been. Before you move away, stay with me, because what comes next will reveal the first sign that your chain-breaking blessing is about to manifest. You don't want to miss what's about to unfold. Type "I align with heaven's timing" in the comments if this message is touching your spirit. Blessing code 1414 is now released. My chosen one, the air around you is carrying a quiet tremor, the kind that only appears when something heavenly is drawing near. Archangel Michael is still present, standing like a shield behind you, and he is urging you to understand the deeper truth behind the blessing that is moving in your direction. This is not just a blessing of comfort. It is a blessing of rearrangement, recalibration, and divine repositioning. It is the kind of blessing that does not just enter your life quietly. It enters with purpose. It confronts the very chains that tried to rewrite your story. And today, you must hear what Michael is showing in the spirit, because this next revelation will make sense of everything you have been facing. He is revealing that the reason your life has felt unsettled, the reason certain relationships shifted suddenly, the reason familiar places began feeling unfamiliar, is because your spirit was outgrowing your surroundings before your mind realized it. The elevation began first in the spirit realm, not in the physical. And when your spirit began rising, everything that was attached to the old version of you started shaking loose. That shaking was not rejection. It was not loss. It was not failure. It was the earliest sign that your chain-breaking blessing had already begun its approach. Michael says that your life has gone through a silent separation phase. People who once had easy access to you suddenly felt distant. Situations that once seemed stable started feeling temporary. Even your own emotions have been shifting between heaviness and clarity, between confusion and sudden bursts of divine insight. This spiritual fluctuation was not random. It was preparation. Heaven was disconnecting you from every chain that could not survive the blessing that is coming. Some people were attached to your old wounds, not your healed identity. Some places were tied to the version of you that survived it, not the version that is about to ascend. Some habits belong to an unhealed heart, not a restored spirit. And heaven refuses to allow old chains to mix with new blessings. Michael is showing something powerful now. He is holding a scroll. On this scroll is your name written in light. But beneath your name are three things that heaven is releasing into your life simultaneously: the blessing, the breaking, and the rebuilding. The blessing is the divine promise moving toward you. The breaking is the release from every limitation that tried to bind you. The rebuilding is the restoration of everything you lost, but in a stronger, purified form. You are not entering a season of repair. You are entering a season of divine reconstruction. And this reconstruction will be so precise, so intentional, and so miraculous that even you will look at your life and say, "Only heaven could have done this." But Archangel Michael's warning still stands. Time is running out to align with it. Not because heaven is closing the door, but because heaven is opening it wider. and you must be aligned enough to walk through it without hesitation. This is why you have been feeling the urge to declutter your spirit. You have been feeling a pull toward quiet moments. Your dreams have become unusually vivid. Your discernment has sharpened almost overnight. Your boundaries have strengthened without you forcing them. Your patience for draining people has vanished. These are not personality changes. They are prophetic signs of alignment. They are indicators that heaven is preparing you to receive something that cannot be contaminated by past energy. Michael says that the blessing approaching you is wrapped in precision. Heaven does not release blessings casually. The timing is strategic. The path is calculated. The atmosphere must be correct. Your spirit must be steady. Your heart must be clean. This is why heaven has been confronting your fears, stretching your faith, and calling you to release emotional weight you have carried for too long. The blessing coming for you requires a version of you that fully understands your value, your authority, and your divine identity. Heaven is removing apologies from your spirit. You will no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You will no longer explain your calling to those who cannot comprehend it. You will no longer doubt the voice inside you that has been guiding you toward greater purpose. Michael says the blessing in motion will confirm every spiritual whisper you ever questioned. It will validate every quiet decision you made in faith. It will reveal why the warfare was so intense, why the delays lasted longer than expected, and why you were forced to grow even when you felt exhausted. Every moment of heaviness had a purpose. Every night of confusion was training. Every attack was proof that the enemy saw what you could not yet see. You were approaching an anointed turning point. And now, Michael wants you to prepare for the first external shift. There will be a sudden release of clarity. A moment where something that once felt tangled will suddenly make perfect sense. A moment where a question you carried for months will be answered instantly. A moment where you will feel a weight lifting off you, as if an invisible rope was cut. When that moment comes, understand this. Your chain-breaking blessing has crossed into your atmosphere. Before we move deeper, pause here. The next revelation will explain why this blessing had to take time, and why heaven protected it from reaching you too early. Stay with me, because what comes next will connect every hidden piece of your journey. Type "I open my spirit to alignment" in the comments if this message resonates. Blessing code 2299 is now activated. My dear heart, as the atmosphere continues to shift around you, Archangel Michael is drawing even closer, and his presence right now is unlike anything you've felt before. He is not just watching over you. He is actively positioning you. You may not see it with your human eyes, but in the spirit realm, a divine rearrangement is happening so swiftly that even the forces that once opposed you are stumbling in confusion. Heaven is accelerating the process of your breakthrough, and Michael needs you to understand why the timing of this blessing was never random. It was divinely delayed, not to deny you but to protect you. There was a season when you cried for a breakthrough that you were not spiritually ready to hold. You wanted freedom, but chains still felt familiar. You wanted elevation, but your environment was not yet prepared to sustain it. You wanted blessings, but you were still surrounded by people who would have drained them, sabotaged them, or use you as a stepping stone to their own ambitions. Heaven heard every prayer you prayed. Heaven stored every tear you shed. But heaven also saw what you could not, that releasing your blessing too early would have placed it into unsteady hands, your own included. Michael reveals that heaven needed you to become stronger before the blessing could reach you. Not stronger in pride, not stronger in hardness, but stronger in identity. You needed to know who you truly are so that when the blessing arrived, you would not shrink, doubt it, or apologize for receiving it. You needed to be spiritually aligned enough to recognize what belongs to you and what only masqueraded as good. You needed to sharpen your inner discernment so that nothing false could cling to your blessing. Heaven has watched you outgrow people you once trusted. Heaven has seen you release dreams you once thought were permanent. Heaven has allowed certain doors to close, not as punishment, but as revelation. You had to learn what is not for you in order to be ready for what is. You had to face the truth about who was draining you, who was pretending to support you, and who was only attached to your struggle, not your future. And because you were willing to let go, even when it hurt, Heaven now knows you are ready to receive something that requires maturity, clarity, and strength. Michael says the blessing moving toward you is designed to last, not fade, to multiply, not vanish, to elevate you, not confuse you. It will not come in fragments. It will not come in bits and pieces. It will not come with conditions from man. It will come complete, prepared, and wrapped in divine timing. This is why there had to be a pruning before the arrival. Anything that could have contaminated your blessing had to be removed from your path. Anything that could have corrupted your spiritual alignment had to be cut away. Anything that would have attempted to control or manipulate your elevation had to be silenced or exposed. But now, heaven is shifting from preparation to manifestation. Michael shows an image of a doorway glowing with radiant light. This door represents the passage between your old cycles and your new spiritual alignment. The blessing in motion is on the other side, and the door is beginning to open because you have finally stepped into the vibrational frequency heaven designed for you. You are no longer vibrating at the frequency of your past pain. You are vibrating at the frequency of your purpose. And there is something else Michael wants you to know. Once this blessing enters your life, the chains it breaks will never reattach. This is not temporary freedom. This is not emotional relief. This is not a short-lived breakthrough. This is a permanent reset. The chains that held your voice, your confidence, your divine authority, your relationships, your finances, your direction, and your spiritual clarity are dissolving for good. You are stepping into a realm where you will no longer fight battles meant for your old season. Your warfare is shifting. Your calling is rising. Your life is being rewritten. But Michael gives one final instruction before the door opens wider. Stay spiritually awake. The enemy often tries one last attack before a blessing arrives. Old emotions try to resurface. Old memories try to distract you. Old patterns try to lure you back. Not because you are weak, but because you are close. And the enemy knows that once you step through this doorway, you will become someone he can no longer manipulate, confuse, or delay. Child, hold your posture. Stay anchored in peace. Do not return to what you have already healed from. Do not let temporary discomfort make you doubt permanent elevation. Heaven is on your side, and the blessing is almost upon you. Something extraordinary is about to unfold, and when it does, your entire spirit will know that it was worth every delay, every tear, and every silent season. Keep listening, because what comes next will reveal how to recognize the exact moment your blessing enters the physical realm. And once you see those signs, nothing will ever be the same. Before we go deeper, take a moment to breathe into this truth. A greater revelation is forming. Like this message, share it with someone who needs it. Comment to keep this message flowing, and subscribe so you never miss what heaven is speaking for your life. Type "I am ready for the divine shift" in the comments if this part is speaking to you. Blessing code 5533 is now alive in your atmosphere. Beloved, as this message flows straight from the heart of heaven, I want to speak something directly to your spirit. When you support this mission, whether through super thanks, channel membership, or even through the PayPal link in the description. You are not helping a platform. You are helping a soul hear God's voice in the exact moment they are breaking. This work is a river of light, and every seed you release becomes part of that river, reaching those who are standing on the edge of giving up. The scriptures say that those who sow into God's work will reap a harvest that the devourer cannot touch, and today that living promise is being spoken over you. I am reaching to you personally now, because heaven is stirring those chosen to carry this message farther than the algorithm ever could. Just as Archangel Michael warned that time is running out to align with your blessing, heaven also honors those who align with its mission. When you give, you activate a prophetic blessing over your home, your atmosphere, and your journey. Step into this divine moment and release your support now. Beloved soul, take a deep breath, because what Archangel Michael is revealing right now is one of the most important truths you will ever hear about your journey, your battles, and the blessing that is actively moving toward you. He is lifting the veil over something that has been hidden from you, not because you were unworthy of knowing it, but because the timing had to be perfect. And today, heaven says the timing has finally aligned. The blessing is close enough now that the truth can be unveiled without interference, without confusion, and without distortion. Michael begins by showing a vision of two paths. One path is crowded with voices, noise, doubts, expectations from others, and emotional weight that never belonged to you in the first place. This was a path you were pushed into by circumstances, by trauma, by generational patterns, by environments that were too small for your spirit. This path drained you, yet you walked it because you had no other option at the time. The second path, however, is clear, golden, and illuminated. It carries peace, clarity, divine guidance, and alignment. It is the path heaven wrote for you before you were even born. And Michael says, the blessing that is moving toward you can only find you on the second path. This is why the last season of your life felt like a forceful separation. You did not choose all the endings. You did not choose all the exits. You did not choose all the shifts. Some of them happened without your permission. Some of them shocked you. Some of them left you wondering if you were being abandoned or punished. But heaven says that what looked like loss was protection. What looked like confusion was redirection. What looked like instability was actually the repositioning required to place you on the correct path, the one where your blessing could finally locate you. Michael reveals that had the blessing arrived during your old season, it would have been intercepted. People around you would have manipulated it. Your emotional state at the time would have rejected it. Your uncertainty would have sabotaged it. And your lack of faith in yourself would have caused you to shrink from the very gift meant to elevate you. Heaven could not allow that. You have worked too hard. You have grown too much. You have survived too deeply for your blessing to be wasted or misplaced. Heaven waited for you to step into clarity, even when you didn't realize you were stepping. Heaven waited for you to rediscover your worth. Heaven waited for you to remove certain attachments from your life, not because you wanted to, but because your spirit could no longer tolerate what was draining it. And because you obeyed the inner tug, even when it was painful, heaven now calls you aligned. Michael shows another revelation. He says you have been standing in a spiritual threshold, and thresholds are always the place of the fiercest warfare. That is why the last few months felt heavy, not because you were failing, but because you were transitioning. Not because you were losing, but because you were shedding. Not because heaven was silent, but because heaven was restructuring. The closer your blessing came, the more the enemy tried to push you backward. But Michael says that backward movement is no longer possible. You have crossed the threshold. The door behind you is spiritually sealed. Now, The blessing is no longer just approaching. It is circling your atmosphere, waiting for the moment of divine release. Michael needs you to know something else. The chain-breaking blessing coming to you is multidimensional. It is not one blessing. It is a cluster of blessings wrapped together by heaven's hand, and touches relationships, direction, opportunities, healing, clarity, and restoration. It touches everything that was once wounded. It touches everything that was once stolen. It touches everything that was once delayed. And when it arrives, it will come with force, momentum, and speed. It will not creep in. It will sweep in. Heaven is preparing you for the moment when everything shifts in a single day. The day when something that once felt impossible suddenly becomes available. The day when a prayer you prayed years ago is answered so precisely that it takes your breath away. The day when you finally understand why every delay had purpose, why every disappointment had design, and why every closed door was a divine redirection. Michael says to prepare for sudden clarity. You will wake up one morning and know exactly what your next step should be. It will not be confusion. It will not be guessing. It will not be overthinking. It will be a heavenly instruction stamped with peace. Prepare for sudden connections. People who carry divine assignment and spiritual maturity will enter your life without warning. They will not drain you. They will not pretend to support you. They will come with purpose, truth, and alignment. Prepare for sudden freedom. Something that has weighed on your heart or mind for years will break off you without struggle. You will feel the shift. You will feel the release. You will feel the atmosphere change around you. And Michael says this: no chain will survive the blessing that is coming. Not one. As you receive this truth, hold steady. What is coming next will reveal the divine sign that will appear right before your blessing manifests fully into your physical world. And that sign is closer than you think. Type "My spirit is ready for heaven's revealing" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 4141 is released upon your journey. Beloved one, lean in closely now, because Archangel Michael is beginning to reveal one of the most mysterious pieces of this entire journey. He is unveiling what happens in the unseen moments right before a divine blessing crosses from the spiritual into the physical. Most people never recognize these moments. They misinterpret them. They panic in them. They assume something is wrong when something is actually shifting in their favor. But you are not here to repeat the patterns of those who walked blindly. You are here because heaven wants you to see what is happening, to understand it, to cooperate with it, to align with it fully before your chain-breaking blessing arrives. Michael shows that right before a major blessing enters someone's life, three things always occur in the atmosphere around them. Not one, not two, but all three. These are spiritual markers, indicators, signals that the blessing is no longer simply approaching. It is trying to anchor itself into your physical reality. These markers explain why your emotions have been shifting, why your sleep has felt different, why silence has felt heavier, and why your inner world has been more sensitive than usual. The first marker Michael reveals is the collapsing of old cycles. He shows a vision of a circle cracking open, as if it has been stepped on by a divine force. This symbolizes the breaking of patterns you once repeated unconsciously. Perhaps you have noticed that you no longer respond to situations the way you used to. Things that once triggered you now pass through you without taking root. People who once held emotional power over you no longer affect you in the same way. Desires that were once strong have suddenly dissolved. Connections that once felt magnetic now feel meaningless. You did not force these changes. They simply happen. That is the collapsing of old cycles. It is the moment heaven declares, this version of you cannot return to the old pattern. The cycle is complete. Many people fear this feeling because it comes with a strange sense of detachment. They think they are losing passion or losing direction. But Michael says it is the opposite. It is evidence that your spirit has elevated. You no longer resonate with the chains that once held you. You have spiritually outgrown what once limited you. When the cycle cracks, it means the blessing has begun its descent. The second marker Michael reveals is spiritual sensitivity. You may have noticed it already. Your discernment is sharper. Your intuition feels louder. You can sense someone's intentions before they speak. You can feel peace or danger in seconds. Your dreams have shifted from random fragments to symbolic messages. You may feel the presence of angels in moments of stillness, especially late at night or early in the morning. Your spirit knows something is near. It cannot fully name it yet, but it can feel the vibration of heaven moving. Michael says spiritual sensitivity increases right before a blessing because heaven needs you to be aware, not distracted. This is the stage where divine instructions begin to flow. These instructions may show up as sudden thoughts, unexpected clarity, or a strong inner pull to act or refrain from acting. They come quietly but powerfully. You may find yourself saying things like, "Something is telling me to wait," or "Something is telling me to let this person go," or "Something is telling me to rest right now." That something is not imagination. It is alignment. It is guidance. It is the same frequency the blessing is traveling on, and your spirit is tuning into it. The third marker Michael reveals is the rise of divine disruptions. These disruptions are not chaotic. They are purposeful. They strip away what cannot remain. Heaven begins removing people, habits, distractions, and blockages by force if necessary. Suddenly, a relationship ends. Suddenly, a plan collapses. Suddenly, a door closes. Suddenly, a situation shifts. These moments feel painful because they are sudden, but they are never cruel. They are surgical. They are precise. They are timed perfectly to protect your blessing from falling into the wrong container. Divine disruptions happen only when heaven sees that your blessing is close enough to be affected by your atmosphere. When the blessing is far away, heaven allows you room to learn, experience, grow. But when the blessing enters your proximity, heaven restricts access around you. It begins removing what cannot be trusted. It begins shifting what cannot hold the weight of what is coming. It begins tightening your circle so that only aligned people remain. What feels like loss is actually divine strategy. Michael says that right before a blessing manifests, the old must fall apart quickly so the new can rise clearly. If you have been experiencing unexpected endings, emotional clarity, sudden realizations, or spiritual detachment, understand this. Your blessing is not far. It is close enough to begin influencing your inner world. Heaven never leaves you without signs. Heaven never lets you walk blind. But heaven does require you to pay attention. Michael urges you now to stay steady, because once all three markers appear, collapsed cycles, increased sensitivity, and divine disruptions, the final stage begins, manifestation. This stage is where everything feels calm again, but not empty. It is a quiet before the arrival, a peace after the storm, a stillness that is not numbness but holy readiness. You may be entering that stage right now, and if so, your blessing is not just approaching, it is aligning with you. Beloved, prepare yourself. What comes next will reveal the exact spiritual posture you must hold so the blessing meets you without delay, confusion, or resistance. Type "I am in divine alignment" in the comments if this message resonates deeply. Blessing code 6611 is released over your path. Beloved child of destiny, quiet your heart for a moment, because Archangel Michael is revealing something so profound, so utterly essential for your next stage, that your spirit must be fully attentive to receive it. You have walked through the tremors of transition. You have endured the silent storms of separation, and you have survived the internal breaking required for divine alignment. But now comes the part that so many overlook, the spiritual posture required to receive a blessing that breaks chains, destroys limitations, and rewrites destinies. This is not passive. This is not casual. This is not something heaven drops into an unprepared vessel. The blessing in motion is too potent, too transformational, too sacred to be poured into a life that is not ready to hold it with both strength and reverence. Michael begins by showing a vision of a vessel, an ancient, golden container, designed to carry holy oil. This vessel represents you, not who you were before, but who you are becoming. Heaven had been shaping this vessel, fetching it, strengthening it, cleansing it. And Michael says that the spiritual posture required now is one of stillness, expectation, and unwavering faith. You cannot stand on shaky ground while heaven releases something so powerful. Your spirit must be rooted, anchored, and steady. Heaven is calling you into a posture that looks like peace on the outside but is full of spiritual fire within. A posture where you no longer chase, beg, or worry about what is coming. Instead, you stand tall, knowing that what heaven has written cannot be delayed, cannot be denied, and cannot be handed to another. This blessing is assigned to you, not another person, not another life, not another timeline. You. And that knowing must become your anchor. Michael says the first layer of this posture is surrender. Not the kind of surrender that feels like defeat, but the kind of surrender that trusts divine timing more than human striving. There is a moment in every breakthrough where the spirit must say, I release control. Because control is the language of fear, but surrender is the language of alignment. When you cling too tightly to how the blessing should arrive, you restrict heaven's creative power. When you obsess over timing, you block spiritual flow. When you try to manipulate outcomes, you step out of the divine rhythm. Heaven says, let go of the how, let go of the when, let go of the who. Hold only the instruction, the promise, and the posture. Everything else belongs to heaven. The second layer Michael reveals is spiritual obedience. This blessing will require you to move when heaven speaks. That movement may be small, a phone call, a step, a decision, a release, a boundary. Or it may be large, changing environments, shifting direction, letting go of someone permanently. Obedience is not about blind following. It is about responding to divine signals with trust, even when your mind has questions. Blessings respond to obedience, because obedience reflects faith in action. Heaven does not ask for perfection. He asks for responsiveness. When your spirit feels that inner pull, listen. When you sense a whisper of divine guidance, follow. When you feel the urge to rest, rest. When you feel the nudge to detach, detach. The blessing is traveling on a spiritual frequency, and obedience tunes your life into that frequency. The third layer Michael shows is emotional stillness. Before a blessing arrives, emotional turbulence often tries to rise. Old wounds try to speak again. Old insecurities try to resurface. Old fears try to whisper. But heaven says this is not the time to spiral. This is the time to anchor. Emotional stillness does not mean shutting down. It means centering yourself in truth. It means recognizing that your emotions may fluctuate, but the promise does not. It means responding to emotional waves with spiritual wisdom, not panic. Michael says emotional stillness opens the gates of manifestation, because a calm spirit receives faster than an anxious one. Anxiety scatters energy. Stillness gathers alignment. When your emotions settle, your spiritual frequency becomes clear, strong, and magnetic. Blessings are drawn to clarity. The fourth layer of posture is expectation, not wishful thinking, not vague hope, but holy expectation, an inner certainty that the blessing is not only coming, but is already in motion and cannot miss you. Expectation shifts your energy. It shifts your language. It shifts your decisions. You stop speaking as someone waiting. You begin speaking as someone preparing. Expectation is faith dressed in readiness. When you walk through your days with expectation, heaven sees your readiness, and readiness accelerates release. Michael reveals something powerful now. Blessings are attracted to expectation the way seeds are attracted to fertile soil. When you expect the blessing, you make room for it. You speak life into it. You prepare your atmosphere for it. You stop entertaining thoughts that contradict it. Expectation is alignment in its purest form. The fifth layer of posture is protection. When a blessing is near, your life becomes spiritually valuable. Your peace becomes valuable. Your energy becomes valuable. Your boundaries become essential. Heaven warns that as the blessing draws closer, certain people may try to access you again. People who drained you, manipulated you, or minimized your growth. Michael says this is not coincidence. It is spiritual interference. Do not reopen doors heaven closed. Protect your atmosphere fiercely. Blessings cannot thrive in contaminated environments. Heaven says, let your boundaries be firm, your discernment be sharp, and your spirit be guarded. What is coming cannot be shared with everyone. Only those aligned with your elevation can walk with you into the new. And now Michael gives the final piece of your posture, gratitude before the blessing arrives. Gratitude is the spiritual magnet that accelerates everything. When you thank heaven in advance, you signal faith. When you thank heaven now, you create open pathways. When you thank heaven before manifestation, you step into the testimony of what is coming. Gratitude shifts atmospheres faster than prayer. Gratitude lifts you into the vibration of receiving. Beloved, listen to this carefully. The blessing is not waiting for heaven. It is waiting for your posture. And you are closer to that posture now than ever before. Stay with me, because what comes next will reveal how Archangel Michael himself will intervene in your physical world when the blessing fully arrives. You do not want to miss what is about to unfold. Type I stand in divine posture in the comments if this message sits deeply in your spirit. Blessing code 3300 is now released upon you. Beloved soul, breathe with intention, because Archangel Michael is preparing to unveil something that rarely gets revealed to a human spirit before manifestation. What he is about to show you concerns the moment of impact, the exact moment when a divine blessing leaves the heavenly realm and fully anchors into your physical life. Most people only recognize it afterward, when everything has already shifted. But heaven is granting you the rare privilege of understanding it before it happens, so that when the moment arrives, you do not panic, you do not resist, and you do not misinterpret the supernatural activity surrounding you. Michael begins by showing an image of a sword descending from the heavens. This sword is not a symbol of war this time, it is a symbol of authority. He says that when a chain-breaking blessing reaches its moment of release, Archangel Michael himself steps into your atmosphere with this sword drawn. He does not come to battle. He comes to enforce. The difference is profound. In battle, angels fight to clear your path. But during enforcement, they implement what has already been written. No demon can argue. No chain can resist. No interference can interrupt. Heaven does not ask, heaven declares. And what heaven declares in that moment becomes law. When this enforcement begins, your physical world will begin shifting in unusual ways. Michael reveals that it starts with a spiritual disturbance, not in you, but around you. You may suddenly feel strong waves of energy passing through your environment. You may feel a sudden heaviness one moment and an intense clarity the next. You may notice silence becoming incredibly loud, as if the world around you is holding its breath. This is not emotional fluctuation. This is not anxiety. It is the atmosphere adjusting to a divine presence entering your proximity. Michael says, when I step in, the air itself recognizes me. You may feel this as chills, sudden warmth, sudden stillness, or an unmistakable awareness that something unseen is near. These sensations are not random. They are confirmations. They are the spiritual echo of Michael's arrival. Heaven wants you to be aware of this so that when the atmosphere shifts, you do not fear it. You align with it. You welcome it. You open your spirit to what it is bringing. The next phase of this divine intervention is the separation of timelines. Before your blessing lands, the path you've been walking and the path you're meant to step into begin to diverge dramatically. This is why in the days or weeks leading up to the blessing, life feels like it is pulling you in two directions. One direction feels familiar but heavy, while the other feels unknown but strangely peaceful. The familiar will try to call you back. Old patterns may try to tempt you. Old fears may whisper. Old attachments may resurface. This is the spiritual tension between your old timeline and your new one. Michael says the new timeline always wins, but your awareness of it helps the transition become smooth instead of chaotic. Heaven does not want you to cling to what is fading. Heaven wants you to step boldly into what is forming. This is why certain things feel like they are losing their grip on you. That is not failure. That is transition. The third sign of Michael's intervention is the sudden removal of spiritual static. For weeks or months beforehand, you may have felt confusion, fogginess, emotional turbulence, or scattered energy. This is spiritual noise, the enemy's last attempt to distort your clarity before the blessing arrives. But when Michael steps in with enforcement, clarity returns suddenly and sharply. What felt confusing becomes simple. What felt heavy becomes light. What felt overwhelming becomes manageable. You may wake up one morning with a sense of peace so strong that it makes no logical sense. That is Michael's presence clearing your atmosphere. Heaven wants you to understand that clarity is not a coincidence. It is a sign. It means the blessing has crossed into the physical realm and is now positioning itself into your life. Michael also reveals something many people do not understand. Blessings require space. Before a blessing arrives, heaven will orchestrate a clearing in your life. This clearing can look like sudden ending, sudden shifts, sudden redirections, or sudden silence. Humans often interpret this as loss, but Michael says it is actually divine construction. Heaven never adds to a cluttered spirit. Heaven removes so that something greater can be placed. When something leaves your life suddenly right before a blessing, it is not rejection. It is divine rearrangement. Michael shows one more powerful sign, the arrival of divine confirmation through unexpected channels. Someone may say something that aligns perfectly with your inner knowing. A situation may unfold that echoes a prayer you prayed. A message, a dream, a scripture, or a symbolic sign may appear repeatedly. Heaven will send these confirmations not to convince you, but to steady you. They are signals saying, stay aligned. You are close. And then, the final moment arrives, the moment when the blessing touches your life. Michael describes it as a spiritual release point. It is the moment when the weight lifts, the pressure breaks, the atmosphere opens. For some, this moment will be peaceful. For others, it will feel like an emotional breakthrough. For others still, it will come with unexpected opportunity, unexpected restoration, or unexpected divine timing. But everyone experiences one unmistakable thing, a shift that cannot be reversed. Michael says that when this moment comes, you will feel it not just with your heart, but with your entire being. Your spirit will recognize it instantly. You will say, "This is it. Something has changed." And from that moment forward, you will see your life accelerate in ways that defy logic. You are approaching that moment. It is closer than you think. Heaven is already aligning the final details. All you must do now is stay open, stay aware, and stay anchored. Your blessing is not coming. It is arriving. Before we move deeper, hold your spirit steady. The next revelation will show you how heaven ensures your blessing remains protected after it lands. Type "I recognize the shift" in the comments if this is reaching your spirit. Blessing code 7171 is now active over your life. Beloved one, steady yourself now, because what Archangel Michael is revealing in this moment carries tremendous weight. You have learned what happens before the blessing arrives. You have learned how heaven aligns your spirit, how cycles collapse, how clarity returns, and how divine disruptions prepare your path. But now Michael is unveiling something equally important, what heaven does after the blessing touches your life. Most people assume the blessing itself is the final stage, but heaven operates differently. A chain-breaking blessing does not end with its arrival. Heaven must protect it, nurture it, shield it, and anchor it so deeply into your life that nothing, no force, no person, no habit, no spirit, can steal, distort, or damage what God has released for you. Michael begins by showing a vision of a circle of light forming around you. This circle is not made of fire, nor is it made of earthly elements. It is made of spiritual authority. He says, when a blessing is released, heaven surrounds it with a shield. This shield is the first layer of divine protection. It ensures that the blessing does not slip away, get attacked prematurely, or fall into the wrong hands. The shield forms the moment your blessing enters the physical realm, even before you consciously recognize it. That is why, after moments of breakthrough, you may feel a strange sense of peace mixed with heightened awareness. It is because heaven is fortifying what has just been delivered. Michael says blessings are like newborn assignments. They require insulation at first. Not secrecy born of fear, but secrecy born of wisdom. When heaven releases something new, the enemy observes from a distance. He cannot see the full details, but he can sense the energy shift. That is when emotional distractions attempt to rise. That is when old connections suddenly reappear. That is when unnecessary conversations begin to stir. That is when invitations that pull you backward suddenly show up. Heaven wants you to understand that these are not coincidences. They are reactions to the arrival of your blessing. But the shield remains. And that shield grows stronger when you stay aligned with what heaven is doing. The second layer of divine protection, Michael says, is elevation of discernment. Before the blessing arrives, discernment is a guide. After the blessing arrives, discernment becomes a guard. It sharpens. It heightens. It becomes more urgent. Certain people will suddenly feel different to you. Not because they have changed, but because your spiritual vision has. You will feel the truth of someone's intentions instantly. You will sense who can walk with you into this new season and who can't. You will know who is aligned and who is draining. This is not judgment. It is spiritual wisdom. Michael says heaven elevates your discernment so you do not accidentally place your blessing into the wrong atmosphere. Blessings are powerful, but they are also vulnerable in the early stages. They must be surrounded by alignment, purity, and peace. Any environment built on chaos, manipulation, jealousy, or resentment can suffocate what heaven just placed in your life. It is why, after receiving a blessing, your spirit instinctively begins creating new boundaries. It is heaven's way of protecting your promise. The third layer of protection Michael reveals is divine redirection. After your blessing arrives, heaven becomes extremely precise with your path. Doors that were once open may suddenly close. Opportunities that once felt appealing may lose their glow. People who once had easy access to you may find the door narrowing. This is not loss. This is God redirecting your steps so that the blessing settles into your life without interference. Heaven will not allow anything to touch your blessing that does not carry divine alignment. You may find yourself saying no more often. You may find yourself uninterested in old patterns. You may feel compelled to detach from anything that threatens your peace. This is heaven's hand moving you, gently but firmly, into the new terrain where your blessing can grow. Michael says something powerful now. Your blessing will not survive in the old version of your life. Heaven protects your blessing by pulling you away from old environments. That is why you may feel a divine push to change routines, shift mindsets and connections, or release emotional attachments. It is not about abandoning your past. It is about protecting your future. The fourth layer of protection is angelic reinforcement. Michael reveals that when a chain-breaking blessing arrives, additional angels are assigned to your life. These angels are not warriors like Michael. They are guardians of transition. They watch over your decisions, your environment, your interactions, and your emotional state. They protect your sleep. They stand at the doors of your relationships. They secure the path your blessing will grow upon. You may feel their presence in moments of stillness, in unexpected peace during stressful moments, or in sudden clarity when faced with confusion. They are not there to fight battles. They are there to ensure the blessing stays anchored. The final layer of heaven's protection is the strengthening of your inner voice. After the blessing arrives, you will notice that the voice inside you becomes clearer, more confident, more aligned, more authoritative. This inner voice is the Holy Spirit aligning your soul with your new season. When your inner voice strengthens, you make decisions that honor your elevation. You stop settling. You stop doubting yourself. You stop abandoning your own progress to make others comfortable. This inner voice becomes the compass that guides your blessing into maturity. Michael says, a protected blessing becomes an established blessing, and an established blessing cannot be stolen. Beloved, you are moving into a season where heaven will surround you tightly, not to restrict you, but to secure you. A blessing coming to you is not momentary. It is foundational. It will shift the trajectory of your life forever if you protect it the way heaven is protecting it. And now, prepare yourself, because what comes next will uncover the revelation of how this blessing will begin transforming your environment, relationships, and direction in ways you have not expected. Like this message, comment to keep the blessing flowing. Share this with someone who needs clarity, and subscribe so you never miss heaven's next instruction. Type "My blessing is divinely guarded" in the comments if this part speaks to your spirit. Blessing code 8844 is released to shield your elevation. Beloved, as heaven surrounds your blessing with protection, I want to speak something deeply spiritual to your heart. When you support this mission, through super thanks, membership, or through the PayPal link in the description, You become part of the divine cycle that carries God's word to those standing on the edge of breakthrough. Every seed you plant becomes light for someone trapped in darkness. Every act of support becomes a spiritual weapon that strengthens this ministry's reach. Heaven is stirring you now, because there is an anointing attached to giving in alignment with a message that speaks directly to your destiny. Michael's warning that time is running out to align with your blessing carries another truth. Heaven honors every giver who aligns with its work. If this message is your confirmation, then release your support boldly and watch heaven open over your life with supernatural reward. Beloved soul, prepare your heart, because Archangel Michael is now leading you into the most transformative phase of this entire divine journey. Until now, you have learned how the blessing approaches, how it signals its arrival, and how heaven protects it once it reaches you. But what Michael is revealing next is the part that so many people fail to understand, how the blessing begins reshaping your life from the inside out. Not suddenly, not dramatically at first, but steadily, powerfully, and unmistakably. This stage is where heaven begins altering your environment, shifting your connections, elevating your purpose, and aligning your steps so precisely that you will look back and realize every moment, every delay, every detour, every battle was leading you right here. Michael shows a vision of a room filling with light from the corners outward. He says this symbolizes how your blessing begins its transformation work. It does not start with the most obvious areas of your life. It begins in the hidden places. Your spirit, your mindset, your emotional foundation. The blessing first transforms what no one can see. It begins breaking internal chains long before external chains fall away. Heaven knows that if your inner world does not shift, you will not have the spiritual strength to sustain the elevation coming your way. This is why, after a blessing arrives, you may suddenly feel an internal renewal you cannot describe. You may feel lighter, more hopeful, more focused. You may feel a sudden desire to do things differently. You might feel the urge to clean your space, rearrange your routines, protect your peace, or detach from anything chaotic. These are not random impulses. They are the first signs that the blessing is beginning its work within you. Michael says the blessing carries an energy that immediately begins to push out anything that is misaligned. It shifts your thought patterns. Thoughts that once kept you small suddenly lose their grip. Memories that once haunted you begin to lose their emotional weight. Fears that once controlled you begin to fall silent. It is not that your circumstances have changed overnight. It is that heaven is changing you, so you can change your circumstances. The second way the blessing transforms your life is through alignment of relationships. Michael says the blessing will draw certain people closer to you while simultaneously pulling certain people away. Not through conflict, not through arguments, but through spiritual incompatibility. You will feel it immediately. Someone you once relied on may suddenly feel distant. Conversations that used to flow may suddenly feel strained. People who once consumed your emotional energy may suddenly lose access to your spirit. Do not resist this shift. It is heaven creating relational clarity. The right people will feel warm, supportive, uplifting, and aligned. They will feel like divine appointments. They will bring peace, not confusion. They will speak life into your journey. They will see your blessing without envy. They will understand your elevation without insecurity. Michael says these are the individuals assigned to walk with you into your next season. On the other hand, those who cannot stay will begin fading naturally. Heaven does not remove people from your life to punish you. Heaven removes them so the blessing can grow without interference. When heaven elevates you, not everyone can breathe the air of your new altitude. Some relationships are seasonal. Some friendships were training grounds. Some connections were bridges, not destinations. Trust the divine separations. The third transformation occurs in your decisions. With the blessing inside you, you will begin choosing differently. You will stop picking from a place of fear. You will stop settling because you are tired. You will stop saying yes to things that drain your soul. Your standards will rise, not out of arrogance, but out of spiritual maturity. You will make decisions that reflect who you are becoming, not who you used to be. You will choose what aligns with your purpose instead of what comforts your anxiety. This is one of the clearest signs that your blessing has begun reshaping your identity. Michael says heaven will begin sending new opportunities, not always big at first, but meaningful. These opportunities will feel different. They will carry a sense of peace even if they are unfamiliar. They will resonate with your spirit even if they challenge your comfort zone. Pay attention, because these are heaven's ways of guiding you into the physical manifestations of your blessing. You may receive unexpected call, unexpected invitations, unexpected ideas, or unexpected open doors. None of these will happen by accident. They will be orchestrated with divine timing. The fourth transformation happens in your environment. Michael says the blessing's energy will naturally push you into spaces that nourish your spirit and pull you away from spaces that suffocate it. You may begin feeling uncomfortable in places where you once felt at home. You may desire to rearrange your room, change your surroundings, shift your routine, or create more spiritual space. You might feel drawn to nature, silence, prayer, or inspiration. Heaven is reconditioning your physical world to match your internal elevation. When your environment shifts, your life shifts. Heaven knows this. That is why the blessing begins sculpting your surroundings. A new season requires a new atmosphere. The fifth and most powerful transformation Michael reveals is the awakening of your divine assignment. Every person has a purpose, but not everyone reaches the moment where heaven calls that purpose forward. When your blessing arrives, heaven begins activating your gifts. You may suddenly feel compelled to step into roles, opportunities, or callings that once felt too big for you. You may feel pulled towards something you cannot explain. Your mission, your work, your contribution to the world, your spiritual identity. The blessing awakens what has been dormant. Michael says this is why your blessing had to come with such precision. Your purpose requires a version of you that is healed, aligned, and free. This blessing is not just about elevation. It is about activation. Heaven is preparing you to step into the fullness of who you are meant to be. Beloved, stay with me. What comes next will reveal how your life will look once this blessing fully matures, and why nothing from your past will ever be able to pull you backward again. Type "My life is transforming now" in the comments to claim this revelation. Blessing code 9090 is poured into your atmosphere. Beloved heart, prepare yourself with deep reverence now, because Archangel Michael is guiding you into a revelation that marks the turning point of your entire journey. Everything you have walked through, everything that has shifted within you, everything that has been broken, rebuilt, and restored has been leading to this understanding. You have learned how the blessing approaches, how it signals itself, how heaven shields it, and how it begins transforming your inner and outer world. But now Michael is unveiling what happens when the blessing fully matures, when it stops being something new entering your life and becomes something permanent woven into the very fabric of your destiny. This phase is sacred, often misunderstood. Many people receive a blessing, but they do not allow it to mature. They mishandle it. They return to old patterns. They let fear sabotage the new gift. They allow old voices to shrink their rising identity. They treat the blessing as a moment, not a movement. But Michael says that you are not meant to be one of those people. Heaven has invested too deeply in your transformation. You have suffered too long, learned too much, grown too far to lose what has been entrusted to you. And so heaven is preparing you for the maturity of what is coming. Michael begins by showing a vision of a seedling growing into a towering, unshakable tree. He says the blessing begins like a seed, but matures like a tree, steadily, gradually, yet powerfully and permanently. When a tree matures, it no longer fears storms. It no longer bends under pressure. It no longer depends on external approval or external nourishment. Its roots go deep, so deep that even strong winds cannot uproot it. This is what heaven is doing with your blessing. It is rooting it so deeply into your spirit that nothing in your past and no force in your future can shake it loose. One of the first signs of a maturing blessing, Michael says, is emotional stability. Not that you never feel sadness or fear again, but you no longer react from a place of fragility. You respond from strength. Situations that once overwhelmed you now feel manageable. People who once drained your spirit no longer have access to your emotional core. You stop absorbing the energy of others. You stop internalizing negativity. You gain the ability to observe without becoming entangled. This is because your spirit is no longer living in survival mode. It has shifted into establishment mode. Michael shows that as your blessing matures, your relationship with time changes as well. You no longer feel rushed. You no longer feel frantic. You no longer fear missing out. You begin understanding divine timing as a living reality, not a vague concept. You move with intention. You speak with purpose. You plan with clarity. Heaven aligns your steps with such precision that even delays feel orchestrated. This is the rhythm of someone walking inside the flow of their destiny. The second sign of a maturing blessing is the solidification of your identity. Before, you questioned yourself. You doubted your calling. You second-guessed your intuition. You allowed others to speak louder than your inner voice. But when the blessing matures, something changes dramatically. Your identity locks into place. You begin knowing who you are with unshakable confidence. You recognize your gifts. You honor your boundaries. You walk in spiritual authority. You no longer apologize for your purpose. You no longer shrink when your spirit expands. You no longer settle for environments beneath your calling. Michael says a matured blessing elevates your identity permanently. It is the moment where heaven says, "This is who you were always meant to be," and your spirit rises to match the declaration. The third sign of maturity is the manifestation of divine opportunities that align perfectly with your elevation. Not opportunities rooted in desperation or convenience, but opportunities rooted in destiny. People who carry wisdom will approach you. Doors that were once locked will open without force. Resources will appear at the exact moment you need them. Paths will unfold that you could never have created on your own. These opportunities are not accidents. They are the fruit of a blessing that has taken root. Michael says heaven will begin weaving divine connections around you, connections with purpose, clarity, loyalty, and spiritual intention. These relationships will feel different from anything you have known. They will be effortless, peaceful, and aligned. They will not require you to abandon your values or shrink your power. They will support your elevation. They will honor your calling. They will walk with you, not against you. This is one of the clearest signs that your blessing has matured. It begins attracting what resonates with your highest spiritual identity. The fourth sign is the dismantling of old spiritual contracts. Michael reveals that when your blessing matures, heaven permanently severs ties to generational burdens, emotional cycles, or patterns that once defined your life. Habits that once felt impossible to break suddenly feel powerless. Emotional wounds that once reopened easily begin to close for good. You will notice that certain battles simply stop. Not because the enemy has vanished, but because the version of you that was vulnerable to those battles no longer exists. Your elevation has changed your access points. Michael says, a matured blessing alters your spiritual vibration. The enemy cannot attack what he can no longer reach. The fifth sign of maturity is the restoration of confidence, holy confidence, not ego. You step into a season where you begin doing things you once feared. You take risks with faith. You pursue dreams without hesitation. You walk boldly toward what heaven has placed in your path. You stop asking, "Am I capable?" and you begin declaring, "I am chosen." This is not self-confidence. It is divine confidence, a spiritual assurance born from alignment. And finally, Michael reveals that the most profound mark of a matured blessing is peace. A peace that does not depend on circumstances. A peace that survives storms. A peace that roots itself in your soul and refuses to move. This peace becomes your new normal. It becomes the atmosphere you live in. It becomes the evidence that heaven has fulfilled what it promised. Beloved, everything in your life is moving toward this maturity. Heaven has already begun building the foundation. Your spirit is rising to meet your blessing. And soon, you will step into a life where nothing, absolutely nothing, can pull you backward again. Hold steady. What comes next will reveal the unstoppable momentum heaven releases once the blessing becomes fully established. Type "My blessing is rooted and growing" in the comments if you receive this. Blessing code 8181 is released over your path. Beloved soul, settle deeply into this moment, because Archangel Michael is preparing to reveal one of the most powerful mysteries of your entire journey: what happens after your blessing matures, when heaven initiates the phase of unstoppable momentum. This is the stage where the blessing no longer feels fragile or new. It no longer feels like something you are waiting to understand, protect, or stabilize. Instead, it becomes the spiritual engine that begins pulling you into your destiny with a speed, force, and consistency you have never known before. This momentum is not random. It is not unpredictable. It is not delicate. It is divine law in motion. Michael shows a vision of a river. At first, the river flows slowly, quietly, almost unnoticed. This is the early stage of the blessing, when it is still embedding itself into your spirit. But as the river continues forward, it begins gathering strength, widening, deepening, expanding. Eventually, it reaches a point where nothing can stop its movement. Even obstacles that once stood tall begin to crumble under the force of its current. Michael says your blessing is becoming that river. It is entering a phase where heaven itself propels you forward, no longer allowing stagnation, hesitation, or fear to hinder your path. At this stage, life begins to shift quickly. Not chaotically, but decisively. You will notice that progress seems to accelerate without you forcing it. Doors open before you knock. People arrive before you call. Solutions appear before you panic. This is because heaven has taken over the pace of your journey. Archangel Michael says, what once required your strength will soon be carried by divine strength. The momentum of your blessing becomes the momentum of your life. One of the first signs of unstoppable momentum, Michael reveals, is rapid alignment. Things that used to take months now take days. Situations that once felt complicated suddenly resolve with ease. Circumstances that once drained you lose their power. You will feel as though heaven has cleared a straight path ahead, removing every detour that once slowed you. This is not coincidence. This is not luck. This is spiritual propulsion. Momentum means heaven is no longer waiting on you. You have become fully aligned, and now heaven is moving you. But Michael also wants you to understand that momentum is not just external, it is internal. You will suddenly find yourself feeling more motivated, more inspired, more decisive. You will wake up with clarity that used to take weeks to find. You will move with purpose instead of hesitation. You will no longer question whether you are ready, you will know you are ready. This internal momentum is a sign that your spirit has caught up with your destiny. The next sign of momentum is the collapse of resistance. In earlier seasons, every step toward progress felt like a battle. Every breakthrough required a fight. Every victory came with opposition. But when heaven accelerates you, resistance weakens. Michael says, the enemy loses his grip when your blessing gains momentum. This does not mean you will never face difficulties again. It means difficulties can no longer delay you. They cannot block you. They cannot confuse you. They cannot turn you around. What once shook you no longer touches you. That is the power of momentum. Another profound shift occurs in your relationships. When momentum arrives, heaven aligns you with people who are also moving forward. People who are stagnant will naturally drift away. Not because of tension, but because momentum creates separation between those who are rising and those who remain bound to old cycles. Instead, heaven will bring new connections that match your speed, your clarity, your purpose. These individuals will not drain you. They will accelerate you. They will speak life into your vision. They will help build what heaven is constructing through you. They will understand the urgency of your calling. They will not hold you back. Michael shows a vision now of a path becoming illuminated ahead of you. He says momentum reveals direction. Before, you walked in phases of uncertainty, needing to rely on signs, confirmations, and discernment. But when momentum comes, heaven begins revealing the map one piece at a time, clearly. You will know where to go, what to focus on, and what to release. Confusion dissolves. Doubt weakens. The next steps become obvious. This clarity is not just guidance. It is divine timing aligning itself with your spiritual maturity. Another sign of unstoppable momentum is resource acceleration. Heaven will begin placing what you need within reach. Financial provision, creative ideas, emotional fuel, supportive voices, open doors, moments of rest. Every resource you need for your next level will appear at exactly the right time. Heaven does not supply inconsistently during momentum. Heaven supplies abundantly. Michael says, provision follows purpose. And now that your purpose is activating, provision will meet you on every step of the journey. And then Michael reveals something many never understand. Momentum changes your spiritual authority. You will feel stronger in prayer. Your words will carry weight. Your intuition will sharpen. Your presence will shift atmospheres. You will speak and see results. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. When heaven accelerates you, authority increases because destiny requires it. You cannot walk in a higher purpose with a lower level of spiritual power. Heaven equips you as momentum rises. The final sign Michael reveals is forward pull, the sense that your future is calling you so strongly that you cannot go backward even if you tried. Old habits lose their appeal. Old places lose their comfort. Old relationships lose their grip. Your spirit becomes magnetized toward what is ahead. This forward pull is heaven's way of ensuring you do not sabotage your progress. It is divine momentum anchoring itself in your soul. Beloved, Michael says you are entering this phase. Everything in your life is shifting toward acceleration. Heaven is preparing to propel you into a season where blessings, alignment, opportunities, and clarity will flow with power. You are closer than ever to the highest version of the life God has written for you. Stay with me, because the next revelation will unfold how heaven seals your destiny so completely that no force, earthly or spiritual, can reverse what is coming. Type "I am moving forward with heaven" in the comments as your declaration. Blessing code 2020 is released over your path. Beloved heart, still yourself now, because Archangel Michael is preparing to deliver the final and most powerful revelation of this entire journey. You have walked through alignment, preparation, transformation, protection, activation, and unstoppable momentum. But what heaven is releasing now is unlike anything revealed before. This is the moment where Michael unveils how heaven seals your destiny, not temporarily, not conditionally, but permanently. This is the stage where God Himself closes the spiritual gates behind you so that no force, no memory, no wound, no enemy, no fear can drag you back into the life you have outgrown. Michael begins by revealing a vision of a great seal descending from the heavens. It is ancient, radiant, burning with divine authority. The seal marks completion, establishment, and irreversible spiritual truth. He says, when heaven seals a destiny, no power in existence can unseal it. A sealed destiny means the blueprint of your life has been activated. It means heaven is no longer simply guiding you, heaven is carrying you. It means your steps are no longer fragile, they are ordained. Your progress is no longer dependent on conditions. It is upheld by divine decree. Every blessing, every opportunity, every connection, every shift that heaven has prepared will now unfold in alignment with this seal. Michael reveals that the reason your journey felt so heavy, so stretched, so emotional, so intense, was because heaven was preparing you for a destiny that required spiritual maturity. Had this seal been placed on your life too early, you would have carried it with uncertainty. You would have doubted the calling. You would have questioned your worth. You would have sabotaged your elevation. But heaven waited for the moment where your spirit could stand in full identity. And that moment is now. The first sign of a sealed destiny, Michael says, is the disappearance of spiritual confusion. You will begin seeing your life with clarity unlike anything you have known. Decisions that once felt overwhelming will become simple. Paths that once seemed tangled will straighten. You will no longer wander emotionally. You will no longer overthink spiritually. You will no longer feel torn between versions of yourself. The seal closes the chapter of confusion. Your destiny becomes the only voice your spirit can hear. This clarity is not temporary. It is permanent, because heaven has locked your purpose into place. The second sign of a sealed destiny is the collapse of backward pull. Every lingering attachment tied to your past, emotional, spiritual, relational, begins to lose power. Situations that once tempted you will feel hollow. People who once influenced you will lose their grip. Patterns that once controlled you will dissolve. You will feel a freedom so deep, so complete, that you will know without doubt, I cannot go back. This is not willpower. It is supernatural detachment. When heaven seals your future, it severs your history, not by erasing it, but by neutralizing its influence. Michael says a sealed destiny cannot return to old cycles. Those cycles were classrooms. They taught you survival, faith, discernment, wisdom. But now that your blessing has matured, those cycles become irrelevant. Heaven graduates your spirit into a new realm where only elevation exists. The third sign is divine permanence. Opportunities that come to you now are not temporary. Doors that open now will not close without purpose. Breakthroughs that manifest now will not evaporate. Relationships that enter your life now will come with assignment. longevity, and spiritual purpose. Michael says heaven will no longer give you blessings that disappear. Heaven will give you structures that last. You will feel this permanence in your emotions, your mind, your decisions, and your connections. Stability becomes your new spiritual home. The fourth sign of sealing is authority. Not the kind given to those who are still learning who they are, but the kind given to those who have stepped fully into divine identity. Your words will begin carrying weight. Your intuition will become razor sharp. Your presence will shift environments. You will pray differently. You will discern differently. You will speak with clarity. You will walk with confidence. This authority is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and undeniable. Heaven seals your destiny so that your spiritual authority matches your assignment. The fifth sign is divine orchestration. You will notice that timing becomes supernatural. You will be at the right place at the right moment. You will meet the right people without forcing it. You will receive the right guidance exactly when needed. Everything will align with precision. Even obstacles will contain hidden blessings. Even delays will hold divine purpose. Heaven becomes your strategist. The seal ensures that the orchestration surrounding your life is synchronized with your highest path. And finally, the sixth sign of a sealed destiny is peace. Deep, unshakable, immovable peace. This peace is not the absence of storms. It is the ability to walk through storms untouched. It is the confidence of someone who knows heaven has already written the ending. It is the rest that comes from trusting your divine alignment. Michael says this peace is the crown placed upon those called to carry a sealed destiny. It marks completion. It marks elevation. It marks arrival. Beloved soul, hear this with your entire being. Heaven has decided that your story will not repeat. Your chains will not return. Your blessing will not be stolen. Your progress will not collapse. Your destiny is sealed. You are entering the chapter God wrote for you before you took your first breath. This is the life your battles prepared you for. This is the season your spirit hath been waiting to step into. Everything ahead of you is governed by divine authority. Take one breath and recognize it. Your destiny is no longer forming. It is unfolding. Type "My destiny is sealed by heaven" in the comments if this speaks into your spirit. Blessing code 1212 is released across your entire path. Beloved, as your destiny becomes sealed by heaven itself, I speak this with the full weight of the message you have just received. When you support this mission, through super thanks, channel membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a platform. You are sowing into a spiritual movement that God is using to reach souls who are standing in the very gap you once stood in. Each gift becomes a seed of light, a shield of hope, a prophetic act that heaven multiplies in ways unseen. Scripture declares that those who water others shall themselves be watered, and today that living promise is breathing over you. I am inviting you personally now, not as a creator, but as a vessel carrying God's word. Stand with this mission so that more destinies can be rescued, restored, and realigned. Heaven honors bold givers, and this moment is charged with divine urgency. Release your support now, and may God pour back into your life in ways only a sealed destiny can unlock.